we now move on to keynote session. And to deliver this keynote, we have Krishna Raghavan, who is the Chief Technology Officer and brains behind Flipkart and its technology platform. Krishna Raghavan, he currently is heading the engineering for seller platform at Flipkart. His first initiative was over 15 years ago, and since then Krishna has been involved in product technology, startups across US and India. Prior to Flipkart, Krishna has led digital commerce at Future Group, where he was responsible for creating a digital commerce platform that powered various groups formats like eZone, Future Bazaar, Holy, and Big Bazaar. Krishna will deliver today's keynote on intelligence at scale. Can we have a big round of applause for Krishna Raghavan, Vice President, Engineering, Marketplaces, Flipkart. Ladies and gentlemen, we can clap louder. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So today I'd like to talk about a topic that I think personally interests me a lot. And we at Flipkart have been investing quite a lot in this area over the last, I think, many months, and will continue to disproportionately invest in the time to come. And the topic is really self-explanatory. I mean, it's intelligence at scale. As you know, the e-commerce business in India has been growing tremendously, month on month, year on year, and the numbers are to prove it. But more than that, it's not just enough to handle scale. All of our systems are now fundamentally able to handle scale. But how do we actually draw out interesting patterns that emerge from the data, the large amounts of data that are coming through, and solve for that for sellers who are selling online? So that's really going to be the focus of my talk. And I'm going to actually talk about it through 3 problem statements that we are solving at Flipkart. And it's 3 of many that we are solving. And I want to talk about those. Right? So if you take the e-commerce industry in India so far, I just wanted to talk about 3 dimensions. The lifestyle category per se in India, e-commerce, starting at 2012, last year, I mean 2 years ago, was at 1,700 crores, and as you can see it's projected to grow to about 17,000 crores in a matter of 4 years, so nearly 10x growth. And lifestyle as a category is fundamentally different from the perspective that it's a long tail selection. Long tail by meaning a large variety of products, not a lot of branded products, if you may. And that's where most of the problems emerge in terms of how do you actually govern a marketplace where thousands of sellers are selling their products online and millions of buyers are coming in to buy them, right? The other dimension I wanted to talk about was the mobile shopping. I think a lot of speakers in this conference are going to talk about m-commerce in general and the evolution of m-commerce in India. But again, the scale, as you see, within 4 years, it's expected to grow to about 27x from where it was about a couple of years ago. And the mobile channel as such brings in, again, an interesting set of problems. You have much smaller real estate, right? And from a browsing or discovery experience, how do you actually bubble up sellers, products that are of interest to a customer out there? He doesn't have the real estate to go and browse page after page like on the desktop. So in terms of how do you actually bring up interesting experiences is something which is key for the mobile channel, right, as a device. And obviously the e-commerce visitors, starting at 84 million a couple of years ago to 240 million in about 4 years and growing rapidly. So the number of users coming in India, fundamentally shifts. It's not just about, it's just a pictorial representation of a mall in India, but I just wanted to convey the point that in this mall there are like thousands of possible merchants, sellers selling their wares and different customers coming in, right? And how do you make sense of this, right? That's really the purpose. So as I said, handling scale is not enough. And we at Flipkart have seen that, right? So we've managed to grow phenomenally, exponentially over the last few years. But we've realized very quickly that it's not enough. And so intelligence at scale will be the differentiator. So I'd like to actually expose that through 3 problem statements to you all. The first one is, the first problem statement is really about how do you actually sell or merchandise your products. It's a fundamental question. And the standard retailing constructs are really around pricing, right? How do you price your products for the consumers? How do you actually merchandise in terms of promotions, offers, discounts, things of that nature? How do you bundle your products? So typically you form interesting relationships between products. I take an example of a camera and a camera bag, to put it very rudimentarily. But those are static bundles that you know beforehand work for a customer. And you actually bundle those products together as a merchant. And then ads, right? So typically you would want to see how you're a seller who comes on to a marketplace, and how do you actually quickly bootstrap your business? You possibly want to increase visibility inorganically rather than organically, and therefore you choose the ad or monetization format in terms of pushing your products in front of consumers. But the question is, would that be enough, right? We at Flipkart believe that's not enough, and there are two ways that we are actually trying to solve for that for an SME or for a seller selling online. That's basically customer insights, right? If you don't know your customer deeply enough, and you don't power that insight into your selling experience, you're not going to be successful fundamentally on the marketplace. There are thousands of other sellers who are doing it. So you have to actually invest disproportionately in sort of listening to customer insights. And we as a platform have started building a customer insights engine over the last 6 months, and we're continuing to invest heavily in this area. So what are we doing with the customer insights? We are actually gathering insights at every step of the customer journey. And you can imagine doing this at scale for 18 million customers that we have today, right? So all of these problems that I'm exposing to you have a common thread or pattern. That's crunching massive amounts of data, right? And applying various heuristic models on that data and coming up with insights. And those insights are used to power both the seller experience on the platform as well as the customer experience. So it serves both, and we as a marketplace have to solve for both. So that we believe is what we want to do. So some examples here. So things we look at, the customer browse behavior. How do customers discover products? Different categories have different discovery experiences. In a long tail category like apparel, you have customers coming in possibly doing more of a browse. They don't exactly know what they're looking for. They possibly categorize products by a top level vertical, and then they browse, and then they figure out. But if you take an electronics category, they pretty much know what they want to buy, and they go in right through maybe a search. So there are different ways in which customers find products, and customer insights is about figuring that out, across 18 million customers, as I said. The next one is a very typical example of, how do customers purchase products, their purchase history, right? And you got to be intelligent at that. Somebody buys a DSLR, you don't keep recommending a DSLR for the rest of their journey at Flipkart. So you got to be intelligent at that. And it's not just about suggesting accessories. It's about figuring out, from large amounts of customer data, what are the patterns of buying behavior across customers. And this is the most interesting thing for us. I mean, inferring product relationships. I talked about, static bundles. So things which probably a merchant is aware of beforehand. But there are very interesting product relationships that you can form based on the browse, discovery, and buying experience, history of a customer. And these are dynamic bundles, as we call them. These are relationships that you form on the fly. And these could drive a lot of experiences as a seller, because we could funnel all these insights back into the seller platform and allow sellers to actually bundle these products statically beforehand, or have various discounting schemes that actually show up for a customer as they work through the purchase process, right? So upselling, as an example, could be something that gets powered through the product relationships. And as I said, there are a bunch of things, and the big part of all of this is doing this at scale, at web scale, for 18 million customers. And this can't be something that you do all the time, real time. You have to strike these relationships beforehand from a technology perspective. And how do you do that, right? So that's the real problem to solve. And I'm sure many companies out there are trying to solve for the same thing. So this is one way of solving for selling or merchandising for a seller out there. The other way that we are investing a lot of energy on is around seller analytics. And this is a platform that we've built. And it's in its V1 today, but we're going to invest a lot of technology innovation in sort of building out this platform. And the various use cases that it could provide to a seller is basically providing deep selling insights of your portfolio. And to give you an example, we have sellers on our platform who have warehouses in multi-cities, basically locations across India. And maybe based on customer behavior of who are your customers, typically maybe if you have a warehouse in Delhi and your customers for a particular set of products in your portfolio are buying products from the Delhi region, then potentially it makes sense for you to stock those products in Delhi rather than increase your shipping costs by actually stocking those products in Mumbai or in Bangalore. So we should be able to power those insights for a seller and showcase that to a seller to say, how do I actually increase my regional utilization based on my customer segmentation, right? And that's one of the insights that we could actually power through the platform. The other one is, how are you doing against the competition? And this is something that we have vast amounts of data. We have vast amounts of buyer data. We have vast amounts of seller data. And at an aggregated level, how do you sort of draw out comparative insights? You are a seller who's selling in a clothing category. And you want to possibly look at how your vis-a-vis how are other sellers in that space doing. Not, it's all obviously anonymized. It's aggregated information. But you possibly want to know, what are the constructs that typically work? What are the price points that work? What are the bundling strategies that work, right? Where should you list your product, right? Things of that nature. So you want to possibly compare yourself. And this is something that we would want to power in the platform for the seller, right? And finally, the point I would like to make is it's not just about analytics. Analytics tells you that this is the data, and it could slice and dice the data. Somebody who's an analyst can do it. But where technology comes in is actually, again, drawing out insights, basically applying various heuristic models on the data, coming up with insights and recommending a course of action. And over time, we'd like to believe not only just recommending the course of action, but based on certain controls that possibly a seller would put into the platform, actually take that course of action and do it on behalf of the seller. We've seen that in the stock market in terms of how the automated schemes work. So we would want to actually even take the course of action, of course, with certain controls built in from the seller standpoint. So that's really a quick snapshot of our product today. I just wanted to put up a screenshot. They're very rudimentary metrics today, but over time, we'll be actually investing a lot in this area and building out this product. Okay. The second example that I wanted to talk about is, it's a problem not from a seller standpoint, but from a problem from a customer standpoint. So we have over 3,000 sellers on the marketplace today, and we have 18 million customers. And how do we figure out who's the best seller for that product? Often we have up to 10 to 20 sellers for a product. And we got to figure this out at scale. Again, same pattern in terms of crunching vast amounts of data and figuring out who's the best seller. And the way we do this, they take an example of this screenshot. This watch is sold by one seller that I've marked out there, and there are 7 other sellers selling that product. How do we figure out who gets the buy now button, right? That's the problem statement in front of us. And it's not an easy problem because sellers exhibit different kinds of behavior, and then you have customers coming in who are buying these products. How do we actually, from customer insights, figure out which is the best seller for the customer, right? So we call it seller prioritization engine, but we have to figure out. So one of the factors that we look at is, the seller performance. So when I say seller performance, it could be the way, how a seller does on the marketplace in terms of the buyer experience, right? How does she fulfill all the orders in terms of, are there cancellations happening? Are there returns happening? Are there disputes arising out of products that the customers have bought, right? How is your fulfillment history in terms of how fast do you ship your orders? There could be multiple parameters, and then you apply various models on top of these parameters to figure out who's the best seller in terms of performance on the marketplace amongst the set of sellers who are selling that product. And then you have customer preferences. So based on a customer out there on, say, Flipkart or any other marketplace would decide that I want to buy from the seller who ships me the product the fastest. I am actually a price conscious customer. My past purchase history dictates that I typically don't mind getting the product in 3 to 5 days, but I want the cheapest price, right? Or should I look at the customer feedback coming in? So the other points that I mentioned at the top were about the platform, figuring out the seller's performance, but you also have customer signals in terms of feedback coming in. So how do you actually, again, crunch all of this data at scale and figure out, who's the best in terms of customer preference for that product, right? And then you have to bubble up that seller for that customer. The other interesting paradigm is about geo, location, right? This could be a customer preference, but it could also be an optimization that you do for speed and cost. So as a platform, you have sellers all across India, and you have customers coming in from various parts again. So how do you figure out if a seller is very close in terms of proximity, that would have a bearing on the cost, the shipping cost as well as the SLA, the time taken for the product to reach the customer. How do you actually weight this? How do you actually figure out, is this an important factor in determining the best seller for that product and for that customer? Because you do have customer location in a lot of cases. So geo is a factor we also consider, right? And then I talked about personalization, but it's something that we would want to focus on. Like, customer would possibly even say to Flipkart, I am a first-time customer and I don't understand 7 sellers selling this product. I want to buy from the seller who has the buy now button. Don't even show me other sellers because I trust your preference. And that's something that we might want to actually override and say, we'll only show you the seller who owns the buy now button. We don't want you to actually apply intelligence in figuring out which other sellers you should buy the product from. And finally, all of these have to be self-learning. And in technical language, machine learning has to be applied. Because fundamentally, we are trying to solve for the customer. And if these are various heuristic models that we'll apply, and we'll figure out that this is the best seller for the product, but what if the customers perceive it differently? So we should look at customer signals in terms of unit conversions, customer feedback coming in, returns, all of that. And if those signals prove to be the contrary to our model, then we should be quick to change it, and it should be self-learning. So from that perspective, all of this technology is being built on machine learning platforms. So that's another point I wanted to bring up. Cool. All right. The third problem statement that I would like to talk about today, and my final problem statement, is the problem of products. So we talked about in terms of choosing the best seller for the product, but now what about products? So you have a vast array of products, and we talked about lifestyle as one of the categories that's expanding rapidly in India. And this category specifically has all the problems in terms of a lot of unbranded products, long tail. Take a category like accessories, like mobile covers, for instance. There's a vast array of selection out there, and many a times, sellers who are selling these products source it from the same manufacturer, if you may, in China. And all of them brand these products their own way. They basically source the product and then they brand it. And it's not a brand that you come to recognize every day. How do you actually figure out the bad quality products amongst these millions of products out there, right? Crores of products out there. I talked about 10,000 categories and long tail selection. So we are again building a platform a capability around product insights, which essentially looks at various customer signals out there on products. Let me illustrate an example here for you. So we at Flipkart, we have cases where potentially there could be a product which is being sold which is a fake product, right? And you obviously can't control it proactively. You'll have to make sure that you take it down very, very quickly when you get a signal. And you could potentially have two products who are in the same vertical and are priced differently. And you have a certain price variance threshold which you think if it's significantly cheaper, then that's probably a signal to you that this product potentially could be fake. And then you look at customer signals in terms of returns, feedback from customers coming in, and you apply and learn from this, and then quickly you're able to flag potentially the seller, or you're actually flagging that product. And then you're actually having somebody go in and validate it. And as your model gets more nuanced, then you start taking action directly, and you start to delist these products and provide feedback back to the seller. And all this has to be done against crores of products that are selling on the marketplace. The other thing that we also want to look at is conversion. So all the funnel analytics in terms of how a product is bought, through the conversion, through the funnel, starting at add to cart, all the way through the purchase, where do the drop-offs happen? All of that has to be insights that you gather about the product, right? And there could be also an example where the cataloging of a product could be subpar. And how do you come to know of this? You come to know of this by looking at return data, for instance, which customers tell you, I bought this product, but it was significantly not as described. I saw it on the website looking a particular way, but when I actually got it, it was significantly different. Then potentially there is disharmony between how the product is cataloged and what it actually is. And how do you actually get these signals in quickly and then give feedback back to the sellers to say that you got to probably go and correct this catalog, right? So those are conversion analytics that you want to look at. Pricing analytics I talked about in terms of how products are priced. I talked about the example of genuine products. So we look at that as well. And all of this has to lead into proactive resolution, right? There's no way with lakhs of sellers coming in that you'd be able to predict the quality of every product that sells on your platform. But product insights should give you the capabilities to ensure that you're able to close the loop very quickly and take action upon the feedback that comes through. So these are the three examples or problem statements that I wanted to actually talk about here, which sort of talk about the theme of intelligence at scale. All of them involve big data in terms of crunching vast amounts of data, applying models, and then figuring out insights. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna. Wasn't that a great, interesting session there? Yes? Would you like to throw it open for the audience for the questions? Okay, we have a lot of questions. Can I please request my colleagues to take it to the audience? Can we start from the beginning, then go to the people at the back? The gentleman right in the front. Okay, the lady. No problem, you can take it after.
Hi, I'm Gitanjali from Google. I kind of had a question for you, on the analytics piece which you were sharing on conversions. So what percentage of the traffic which actually visits Flipkart converts into a sale or a purchase?
Yeah, so that's data that I can't share at this point in time publicly. But but
maybe you could comment on the industry at large, what is the kind of
so
trend
it's actually pretty comparable to worldwide industries in terms of benchmark across e-commerce industries across the world. We are looking at that data very closely, obviously, on a day-to-day basis. And now with the shift happening to mobile, the paradigm in terms of how conversion happens on the mobile is also very different, how mobile customers come in. So we're looking at both channels, web and mobile, and with the increasing shift to mobile, a lot of our strategies are now centered around mobile first.
Thanks.
Honesty always gets louder applause. The gentleman in the front, please.
Hi Krishna, I'm Vivek from MITS. My question, I have actually a couple of questions. In one of your slides, you said that you're tracking behavior of the customers through their browse history. But we have seen that most of the Indian customers, they don't log in on the website for the browsing. So if they're not logging to their from their details, how do you track that? Because there is no way to track that.
So there are mechanisms to track customer behavior even without you being logged in. There are standard industry, like people drop cookies, track your behavior all the way through.
But how? But
There
how
are
will
unique
you help the
identifiers.
customer with that?
Sorry?
But how will you track the customer with that? Because you don't know who has visited which page. So if that customer is coming back again, how are you going to
So
do that?
you basically uniquely identify a customer. There's a way that you can, there's a UID concept that you identify a customer for the lifetime of the customer. And typically when a customer makes a purchase, say a purchase happens, then potentially you do have that to tag the customer. And then from then on, when the customer comes back in terms of repeat purchases and things of that nature.
Okay. My second question is on one of your slides you said that you do comparative analysis and trends for the sellers, and then you help them understand what you should carry, what you should not carry, if you're carrying something wrong or not. And that you are doing it within Flipkart, right? Not across marketplaces.
That's correct.
So these sellers will not take revenge for that, because you are supplying insights to one seller and you're not supplying insights to another seller. Will that not be a problem?
Revenge is a strong word, but I think what we've seen and across the world, if you look at case studies out there, sellers don't mind looking at aggregated analytics. We're not actually personalizing the information and saying a seller XYZ is doing this, but you're looking at overall trends, and you have to draw a line in terms of how much information you provide without compromising the identity of a particular seller. So that's something we would never do. But when we look at comparative analytics, it's really aggregated information.
Okay.
So you're looking at more overall trends in a particular vertical that you're selling in, not specific to a particular seller.
Okay, there are people waiting at the back as well, so I'm sorry, we would have to limit it to...
Thank you, I think I'm done.
You're done, thank you so much. Somebody at the back, the person in the check shirt, please. You would have to introduce yourself and then ask the question. Thank you. The person at the back.
There's somebody all the way back, I think.
Yes.
Hey, my name is Vipin, so I work with Titan Company.
Sorry?
I work with Titan Company.
Okay.
All right, I've got a couple of questions for you. So the first one's
Just
around...
one, please. You'd have to ask only one question because there are all people also waiting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Around seller performance, right? Now, you said that you don't want the customer to be intelligent and, your system's going to decide what seller it's going to choose. Then
For the buy now button. Yeah.
Right. So what's the point of having multiple sellers on a particular product then?
Sure. So,
and it's a twofold question, sorry.
Okay.
It's not a second question. So, what are the actions that you're going to take on bad sellers? The sellers who are reported, what's the, if a seller is doing fraud, bootleg products, what's the action that you take on them?
sure. So two-part question. So the first one in terms of figuring out the best seller for a particular product and why do we need other sellers selling in that case. So you obviously in a particular in an ecosystem like a marketplace, you want to have seller density because you want to give customers those multiple choices. I talked about personalization of a customer as well. So in terms of figuring out who owns the buy now button, there is a customer preference as well that we would like to take into account. So there could be a seller who's actually shipping the product a lot faster than another seller and charging 50 rupees more. But if we do get a customer signal that the customer prefers this seller, then we would want to showcase that seller for that product, right? So we would want sellers, different types of sellers selling a product. Secondly, inventory planning is a very, very hard science. You don't know predicting the patterns of buying behavior. There could be a bumper sale that happens potentially. And there could be sellers that go out of stock. How do you ensure that a customer coming into Flipkart still gets the product that he or she is looking for, right? You still want sellers who are selling, multiple sellers selling that product. Thereby, you can still offer that customer experience that customer is looking for. So I hope that answers the first part of your question. Second part, in terms of just sellers who are not meeting our bar in terms of customer experience. We are a customer-centric company. So we have, in terms of identification of sellers, we know which sellers are getting onboarded. We have a strong quality check right at the time of onboarding. And that's why we've actually gone slow in terms of making sure that we have quality sellers on our marketplace. And we also take very, very quick action upon sellers who, there are certain very negative behaviors that we absolutely don't encourage, for instance, in terms of fake products. So that's something we would treat very seriously, and based on certain standard operating procedures, we would actually delist the seller if the seller were to exhibit that behavior.
Okay. Does that answer your question? The person at the back, you done with the question, sir?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Salar. I'm from a company called Trade Briefs in Mumbai.
Sure.
There was a question regarding cart abandonment and inventory planning. I think I read somewhere that in the US, at least Amazon, they have certain technologies with drones which actually can optimize your delivery center inventory based on how people use their carts. Like what is being discarded, what is being not discarded, what is being actually purchased. So do you have something for the Indian market? Because almost every company today, from Flipkart to Snapdeal, is looking at one-day delivery or same-day delivery. So is that something that you are seriously looking at today?
Yeah, so when you talk about delivery experience, it's something we constantly look at. So in terms of ensuring that we have a large footprint of sellers across India, and as I said, I called out, I think during my presentation, regional utilization as one of the key levers in terms of figuring out and powering faster fulfillment for customers. And I talked about geo as well as one of the weightages that we actually attribute to when we pick the best seller for a product. So both these strategies work hand in hand to ensure the customer gets the product at the lowest cost possible and fastest.
I think that's just about it. We're running short of time, so we'll have to, you can take the questions offline.